if you missed what happened in the NFL in terms of coaches firing, hiring, and the whereabouts of coaches in general in the NFL over these past couple of days, well, don't worry. I got you. My name is CJ from Hate to Pile On. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it, give it a like and comment down below what you think as well. It will greatly help support me and my channel. So Aaron Glenn gets hired to the New York Jets, and they also just hired their new GM, Darren Moogie. I'm probably butchering that. So that is your official pairing with Aaron Glenn and Darren for New York. There was reports that Newark, who was the assistant GM of the Washington Commanders, who had 26 years of experience in Detroit, so had some crossover with Glenn. There was thoughts that would be the pairing in New York, but that wound up not being the case. I really like Aaron Glenn. I like Aaron Glenn. I like this hire a lot. I think he's a strong leader. I think he's going to be the closest to a Dan Campbell in his own rights in terms of a leader of men, a man who can lead, a man who can, who I think you can galvanize a room, and I think he has a plan. I think he understands that he can coach a ball on both sides of the football, and I'm excited to see what he does. And New York is one of the toughest markets there is to coach, to do anything. And so it will be a tall task, but there's a lot of talent on that defense. There's still a lot of talent on the offense. They got to obviously figure out who's going to play quarterback, which is one of the three most important pieces of your organizations, and is marrying your GM, your quarterback, and your head coach all together into a perfect marriage. You get that triangle together, and then you can really start to build a strong foundation and do a lot of good things. But I'm excited for Aaron Glenn. He got drafted in the first round by the New York Jets, which is really awesome. So a guy who's played for the organization, who understands the organization, someone who's know Woody Johnson, what they're all about, so there's no surprises. So hopefully that should help, similar to Dan Campbell, who played for the Detroit Lions, former player who's getting an opportunity to be a head coach in the league. We need more of those. So moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I don't even know what to make of this situation. A lot has happened in the past 48 hours, 48 to 72 hours. And, we first got reports of Liam Cohen, who decided to bow out of the head coaching race for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So then it's like, dang, who's the problem here? Is it Trent Baalke? Is it Shahad Khan? Is it Trevor Lawrence? Is it just Jacksonville in general? Then next thing you know, we hear Trent Baalke is fired and he is going to be gone. And apparently Mr. Khan made a call to Liam Cohen overnight, say, hey, is there any possibility of you reconsidering this job? And obviously, being an NFL head coach is a very coveted position, only one of 32 that exists in the entire world. He re-interviewed, and he wound up being named the head coach overnight. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers apparently are really upset about how he handled the situation. That's allegedly. We don't know exactly sure if that's true or not. There's, talks about him not, icing out the Buccaneers and not talking to him after they actually made an offer to him to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league once he decided to, not talk to the Jags. But, there's obviously a bigger story about possibly doing it for the Jacksonville Jaguars and giving them time to satisfy the Rooney Rule and for them to get the opportunity to get that done so they can make him official hire and then be involved in the GM hiring process. So to really get your imprint of what you want to do here. So I don't know what to think of it. They had an opportunity to get one of the a strong name in Tampa Bay to come with them, but it was kind of too late, as we'll talk about actually next. Is one of their assistants got hired as the GM in Vegas. So we shall see developing where they decide to go for the GM position. But the Jacksonville Jaguars got their guy Liam Cohen, which I think the hire is a strong hire in terms of Liam Cohen has been he did a really good job with Baker, and a lot of their schemes get a lot of fits. And he's previously worked in Kentucky. He's worked with McVay. He's kind of bounced around, but I think he's shown that he can call plays and he can do a good job. And unfortunately for Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker will be going into this year with his eighth different offensive coordinator, so which is absolutely insane numbers. Um, but yeah, the thing is, like, I don't know how he's going to be as a leader. We know he got his first year as a play caller this past year because obviously under McVay, you're not going to be calling plays under McVay. So we shall see. I mean, he did pretty good year one, but as we'll talk about a little bit later, sometimes, you can get figured out after a year. So we shall see how he continues to develop. And can he develop Trevor Lawrence and get the most out of him? This will be Trevor Lawrence's third head coach. And so hopefully they can get something out of him because they paid Trevor Lawrence a lot of money. Moving on to Vegas, the Las Vegas Raiders decided to go with a veteran, someone who's going to be the oldest head coach in NFL history at 74 years old, and that is Pete Carroll, who signs a 3-year deal with a fourth-year team option to be the head coach. They also signed their GM, John Spytek, from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that is who's going to be leading this franchise under Tom Brady's leadership, who apparently has been really involved in the hire. And I think Pete Carroll is a great hire. I think Pete Carroll is the type of guy that you want to bring in your organization to reset the culture. Because the culture for the Raiders has just been so up and down, so I can't say non-existent, but maybe just not to the standards that they need to be in. Um, Obviously, AP 1 year, 1.5 years at the helm, trying to steal his, culture, what he wants to do, but he still is figuring that out himself as, a guy who never was a coordinator. He was a position coach to head coach, but people respected him and he held people accountable. Then before that, he had Josh McDaniels, who's just never really worked out as a head coach. And, I mean, a decent play caller, but just, can't galvanize the whole locker room. Then previously before that was John Gruden. And Gruden, had a decent – he had a run. I mean, he had signed a 10-year, $100 million deal, which is absolutely insane money, and they're still paying for that. Or I think it's on hold right now while they figure out that court case. But, it was just – this is a good hire because Pete Carroll understands people. It brings a lot of energy. He brings a lot of juice at his advanced age, which is absolutely insane. And I hope that they have a system in place to where they kind of have a coach in waiting, and they're going to be trying to build like a coaching staff that are going to, one, do what Pete Carroll wants to do, but two, also want to have a guy ready in the wing, similar to kind of like Bill Belichick and Gerard Mayo, but obviously that didn't work out great. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Pete Carroll can do. Obviously, a big question mark, similar to what the Jets are dealing with, is the quarterback situation. They are in the 6th position in the draft, so you possibly have a chance, depending on how the draft shakes out, to get a quarterback there. You don't get your pick of the litter. They were in that pole position until they won games late in the season. But we shall see. Maybe they will try to go veteran and try to build this roster, specifically that offensive line. That offensive line has, like, no quality starters. No quality starters. Obviously, you got Brock Bowers that you can build around. But we shall see what they decide to do. But Pete Carroll, I think, is a good direction of resetting your culture and your organization around. Late last night, as the time of recording, which is it's Friday night, Saturday morning, wake up to the news of Brian Schottenheimer, the former offensive coordinator, or the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys the past year or two, um, is becoming the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I've seen a lot of fanfare online about this. He signs a 4-year deal to be the next head coach. And obviously, a lot of people are upset about this, not getting a valuable name, not getting someone who brings their own pedigree. Um, People just say he's possibly just Jerry Jones's puppet. Um, and this hire is really uninspiring. It's not great. I mean, I've read reports that people said that he has a good skill set that might be better as not as a coordinator. I don't understand what that exactly means. They think he's a good leader. Maybe he can galvanize a group. Maybe he's just maybe not the best play caller, but he didn't really call plays under McCarthy. So, as far as I know, I should say. So we shall see if he decides to do that, or maybe he hires a good staff that is going to hopefully lead this Cowboys team to some more wins and a chance. Because I mean, there's talent on his roster. There's some tricky contract situations they got to figure out with Micah Parsons, and I think Dak is asking for more money soon. So we shall see. I mean, this is probably the worst hire as of now, but we shall see um, what happens with the Saints. I don't know. I want to see what happens. Like I had the same thought process about Zach Taylor and Nick Sirianni. I was like, who are these guys? Like, and not striking that first um, press conference when they first got introduced was just like, ooh, this is not the best. Specifically Nick Sirianni. So you kind of get that first impression of who is this guy. But obviously they've proven most people wrong for the most part. Zach Taylor's been pretty solidly with the Cincinnati Bengals, but obviously they got their starting quarterback aligned, and then with Nick Sirianni, that just is a super talented team led by a great GM who's just, stocking this team of talent. So it's really just making sure he gets out his own way and make sure this team wins. So we'll see. Maybe that's what Jerry Jones would do, is just he let him lead and give him as much talent as possible in order to have a good team. And we shall see what happens. Also, another coach from the Cowboys talking about people leaving and getting hired. Al Harris, the defensive back coach for the Cowboys, contract expired and will become the new defensive passing coordinator and the DB coach for the Chicago Bears. So that's a great hire, honestly. Al Harris is a great coach. He's an emerging coach under that Dan Quinn's. Antoine Randall is joining Ben Johnson as well with the Detroit Lions. He's going to be the assistant head coach and wide receiver coach. So that's a really a big hire for them as well to kind of keep that continuity. So another loss for Dan Campbell. So let's talk about the Saints. The Saints has been interviewing. I haven't really heard too much about who they're leaning and which way they're going to go. I think the Saints is probably one of the worst jobs out right now, just due to the fact of just no cap space whatsoever. I think they're currently minus $60 million over the cap. So that's a really tough situation for them. Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, had decided today that he will be pulling out of consideration to be head coach. And ever since Joe Brady took over for the offensive coordinator for the Bills late last year, the Bills' offense has skyrocketed. They've run the ball a lot more effectively, and it's been a really potent offense and possibly unlocking the best Josh Allen. I like Joe Brady a lot. I think he did really good work at LSU, where he had one of the greatest offenses literally in the history of the college football. Then he came to the Carolina Panthers, had 3 1,000-yard performers, all-purpose yards, and also had a 1,000-yard rusher. I think he had 4. 4 total 1,000-yard rushers and like receivers and like all-purpose. He's definitely a name to watch. He probably will become the lead guy for aspiring head coaches next year to begin the cycle. Move. So that's going to be a big blow for the Saints. We don't know where they lean. I thought that it was going to be a Joe Brady situation going back to Louisiana. There's a good chance it could be Mike McCarthy, a Brian Flores situation, but the Saints being to be the last team to fill their head coaching position, so we shall see what they decide to do. Maybe they're waiting for someone who's still under contract or who's still playing for the Super Bowl. Maybe a Steve Spagnuolo, a Cliff Kingsbury, uh, Kellen Moore, possibly. So we shall see. The Lions promoted their linebacker coach Kelvin Shepard to defensive coordinator, and they're promoting within, and they're really excited for him to get this opportunity. And I'm excited to see what he does. It's a big step up, and he has some pretty big shoes to fill. Refilling his old shoes, Robert Salah has agreed to be the defensive coordinator for the 49ers after, I guess, failing to reach a deal to be the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. Um, I think it's a good fit. I mean, honestly, ever since he kind of left, I mean, the defense hasn't been the same. And I mean, they had some good years with Steve Wilkes, and D'Amico Ryan's was solid, but he still gave up a lot of points. Um, but there should be a nice fitting of the glove with Robert Salah going back to 49ers and hopefully getting that defense back right for them to make another Super Bowl run. Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, actually was fired and let go. Same with the offensive line coach Chris Strausser. They both got fired, which is kind of surprising based off of just one off season ago. Bobby Slowick was regarded as an up and coming name to watch and was getting head coaching offers. But a lot of sources are saying that they blame him for not adapting his system after year one, and they think that he's the reason why CJ Stroud has regressed. And so they're really kind of scapegoating Bobby Slowick. But if you're not adapting your concepts and people can pick up what you're doing, then you're not going to get too far in this league. So hopefully he'll learn from it and he'll get an opportunity to grow and go back at it. So that is all of the coaching news in this current cycle. We're going to give you a update based off of who gets hired as the GM for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who gets hired to be the head coach of the Saints, and we'll be breaking down all of this in depth and ranking who had the best coaching staff on our new podcast called The Rookie Revelation, which will be dropping very soon. And we hope you guys will stay tuned with us here at Hate to Pile On. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all of our social media platforms and on YouTube at Hate to Pile On, HATE, the number 2, PYLON. It would greatly appreciate it if you want more great content like this, discussing NFL, college football, and possibly some NBA. Hang out with me, your boy CJ from Hate to Pile On.